Preacher 1138. If Sea Org members don't have health insurance, how do they handle medical bills if they have to go to the doctor or be hospitalized for an extended period of time? Seeing as medical bills can become very large very fast, it would seem to be a major issue to pay off medical bills with no insurance. After being successfully treated for whatever medical issue the person had, would the Sea Org member be SEC-checked for having withholds that caused their extended illness? Or what if somehow they had been put under psychiatric observation or suicide watch unbeknownst to Scientology and the church finds out after the fact? Would the person be declared a suppressive person or thrown into the hole? Okay, thanks for the questions here. And actually, the way Scientology, or specifically you're asking about the Sea Org, so that's where I'm going to focus my answer here, rather than the broad topic of all Scientologists, because all Scientologists, they go to the hospital, they have health insurance through their work, or they buy private insurance or whatever. But Sea Org members don't. The Sea Org members, one, can't afford personal health insurance, and the Sea Org itself does not provide anything like that. So what happens when somebody goes to the hospital? And we'll just head off a bunch of these questions before they would even become a situation, because instead of Sea Org members being left on their own to go deal with their medical bills or accumulate medical bills, what happens is they immediately go in, like to an emergency room usually, or if they had a real serious situation like cancer or something, they go in and they basically apply as low-income charity cases. They go into the hospitals and they take advantage of whatever programs are available on the public dole to be taken care of. This happened to me a few times when I went into the hospital. I had one time I had to be held overnight for observation of my heart. Another time I had a broken finger. And other times I went with other people to the hospital and watched what went down with them. And by the time I was going to LA County Hospital and getting treatment for problems that I was having or observing others doing it, it had already been all worked out with the hospital that if somebody was coming from the Sea Organization or the Church of Scientology, they were going to be put on one of these low-income programs because it was already worked out that we were not making any money. And we were not going to be able to pay for prescriptions, and we were not going to be able to pay for medical care. And so we were going to ask the public to do it, the public at large. And this was why I say it's sort of a charity thing. And there are such programs, and that was how I was able to get any treatment at all. I've extended that to everybody else who goes in from the Sea Org because this is what we were told to do, and it worked. So they don't accumulate personal debt. And Sea Org members also almost always, it's very rare that a Sea Org member would just show up at the hospital by himself or herself. They always go in pairs, sometimes threes. When I was on the RPF, you couldn't leave the base unless there were two other people with you, not just one. So you're always got somebody around with you, or almost always. Very, very rare that that's not the case. And so you show up there, you're not going to end up on suicide watch or, in some kind of situation with a psychiatrist. One, no Sea Org member would ever consent to a psychiatrist having anything to do with their care. You just have to say the word psychiatrist and you will get almost violent reaction. To me, as a Sea Org member, the most terrifying thing that could ever happen to me that I could imagine was ending up involuntarily committed in a psych ward. I could not imagine anything more terrifying than that. It just, I remember that old movie Jacob's Ladder. I had real visions of it being like the 9th level of hell. So you are never going to see a Sea Org member consent to psychiatric care of any kind, seeing a psychologist, having anything like that happen. And if they were truly suicidal, or, that's a whole nother subject, but they don't send them to the hospital. If somebody in the Sea Org is suicidal or is claiming that they are feeling suicidal, they're put under Sea Org watch and they are isolated and left, and under guard and stuff, and they get out. They kick them out of the Sea Org as quickly as they can. They do interviews with the person on the meter. They check them and they find out if it's real or are they just trying to get out of something. And if it's real, they get rid of those people as quickly as possible. They have learned their lessons about, having suicidal people around, and they don't want to have anything to do with that. The Sea Org has a real big aversion to dead bodies on their bases. So, so as far as going back to the hospital thing, I just wanted to really stress that, because when you ask about if somebody's put under psychiatric observation or suicide watch, that is never going to happen for a Sea Org member or a Scientologist going to get medical care. They will always go to Scientology for the solution to that, not to psychiatrists. So it sort of heads off the question of would they be declared a suppressive person or thrown in the hole. No, that's not going to happen, because it's never going to be a scenario that's going to occur. This is one of the reasons, by the way, all of this that I'm sitting here talking about is one of the reasons why Sea Org members don't spend a lot of time in hospitals at all. They all hate them. They all think that they shouldn't have much to do with medicine, that medicine is quackery and nonsense and pseudoscience. And, and in some places, in some areas, they're right. But if you're sick, you should go to the hospital. If you have a broken bone, you should go to the hospital. If there's something wrong, go to the hospital, get a look at it. Sea Org members are, solve it with Scientology. So that's their attitude about that.